Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. Good evening, or good afternoon, or good morning, depending on where you're joining us from. We're so excited to have you here today. My name is Samuel Schallenberger. I am the Assistant Director for Orientation and Student Development here in the college. And this is a part of our family orientation series. If you've gotten to join us for ones in the past couple of weeks, welcome back. If this is your first time, we're happy to see you. Today, we are focusing all on successfully transitioning your student to the college. And so in order to do that, we have several representatives from all across campus here to talk about their own individual units and all the ways that they support your student and what their involvement here at the college can look like at UChicago. And then we will have a time towards the end of our program to get as many of your questions answered as possible. We are utilizing the Q&A feature during today's program, so please feel free. It should be towards the bottom of your screen to submit any questions that you may have. We also have some questions that you submitted when you first registered for today's webinar, and so we will get through some of those as well, making sure just to leave you feeling like all of those answers are achieved. So as with all of our webinars, today is being recorded. So if you do need to step away for any reason or just want to rewatch any part of today's program, we will be able to upload it shortly to our webinar series website. I will throw the link to that in the chat towards the end, where you are able to register for our final family orientation webinar tomorrow and also watch any of the previous webinars that you may have missed. With that, I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to our Dean for Students to kick us off, Phil Venticinque.
Thank you, Samuel. As Samuel said, I'm Phil Venticinque. I'm the Dean of Students, or as I like to say, the Dean for Students. It's a term that I'm borrowing from Lorna Strauss, a former Dean of Students and a longtime faculty member who I was lucky enough to get to know while I was an undergraduate here at the University of Chicago. I'm so excited to welcome everyone, not only as the Dean for Students, but as a college alum. I moved here in 1997 and I stayed, which makes me a rising 28th year. It also means that I know from firsthand experience how demanding, exhilarating, and rewarding the distinctive UChicago undergraduate experience can be. People often ask what a Dean of Students does, and I find it is important to emphasize our role as advocates, connectors, and guides. We support all of our students from matriculation to graduation across all of our offices, be it college programming and orientation, which everyone has gotten to know so well this summer, our advising team, who you're about to hear more from, the Center for Student Success, or our care and support team. There are over 50 people focused on student success in and out of the classroom, and we are privileged enough to be one of the only places on campus to interact with each and every student during their time here. As you help your student transition to the college, we'd like you to know a few things and to share it with them. First off, please remind them that it is okay to ask for help in and out of the classroom, and it is important to do so, sometimes, and especially, even when they think they don't need it. Academia is not a solo venture. At its best, it is collaborative and a partnership. And we want to partner with them, however they need. Us here in the Dean of Students office and my colleagues here on the webinar tonight. Secondly, it's also okay for you to reach out and let us know you think your student needs help. Karina Buckles, our Deputy Dean of Students, who is here tonight, and I are here to help. So is the whole team. It's important to say this because all our students have done and will continue to do amazing things. And I can't wait to see the impact that they have on campus and our communities. And I know each is going to change the world in ways that we may not even imagine yet. To do that in the future, these next 4 years will be a time to experiment, to push boundaries, find ways to succeed, and find ways to deal with adversity along the way when it doesn't turn out exactly as intended. I'm still working on that too. To discover new passions and nurture those that they have brought with them in and out of the classroom, for them to find communities in which to immerse themselves, and new ways to lead and succeed. Besides the classroom and the classics department, my time here was defined and enriched, and really made all the more complete by the time I spent with my house community at Burton Judson and Dodd Mead, where I lived for 4 years, student government, peers and mentors in campus and student life, including my own deans of students. I'm sitting in her office right now, and the Graham School where I worked. And finally, I'd also ask you to encourage our newest Maroons to get out of their comfort zone, because that's where the magic happens. And I always say that if you're doing UChicago the right way, then you're out of your comfort zone. And while they're there, remember that and remind them that we'll be there to meet them and work closely with our campus partners, including many on the panel tonight, to meet them where they are and where they need to be and where they need us to be in that moment. With that, I will pass it over to my colleague, Chris Kincaid, in the Academic Advising Office.
Thanks, Phil, and good evening, everyone. My name is Chris Kincaid, and I'm an Associate Dean of Students in the college. I'm also the Interim Director of the College Academic Advising and Transfer Office, otherwise known as CATO. So on behalf of all of my colleagues in CATO, I'd like to welcome you to the University of Chicago, and thank you for taking the time to join us tonight. For the next few minutes, I'm going to talk a little bit about the role of the College Academic Advising and Transfer Office, what we do, what we don't do, and what we encourage you to do. So to start, the advising office is currently comprised of 27 full-time advisors and growing, one senior advisor and growing, and an assistant director and myself. We have a very talented group of advisors who come from a variety of professional and educational backgrounds. Some of them have advanced degrees in higher education administration and student affairs. Others are coming out of a multitude of academic disciplines, including history, English, computer science, sociology, and psychology, just to name a few. Their full-time role is to support your students throughout their time in the college. In fact, the College Advising and Transfer Office is one of the few offices at UChicago whose staff has the privilege of meeting with every single student on multiple occasions during their 4 years in the college. Now, as you're likely aware, your student has had at least one advising meeting with their college advisor already. But in addition to this initial meeting, they'll meet with their advisor in a group format during orientation week, and then have one-on-one meetings at least 3 more times this academic year, once each in the autumn, winter, and spring quarters. Now, while these are mandatory meetings, students are more than welcome to schedule additional advising appointments and can also communicate with their advisor over email and phone. If your student's advisor happens to be unavailable on a particular day, we also have an advisor on call, as well as a general office email, both of which are available during normal business hours for quick questions. During their first year, advisors really focus on developing the advisor-advisee relationship. This means that they're taking time during these required meetings to talk with your student about their interests, their goals, and even their concerns. Advisors act as a resource and sounding board, engaging students in idea exploration on everything from how to approach a faculty member during office hours to which degree program best fits their future aspirations. Advisors are not guidance counselors, but they really are thought partners with your students. And advisors can help your students explore all of their options and help them manage all the puzzle pieces that make up their majors, minors, and concentrations, as well as all of the extra and co-curricular activities available to them. Advisors can also help students anticipate and navigate potential roadblocks, and this is one of the most important things that we do. In the end, however, college students have autonomy over their educational pursuits, and we do expect them to take ownership of this. It's their academic experience, and the choices are theirs to make. We are here to support them. Now, the next thing I want to talk about it's been somewhat implicit in what I've just shared, but I'll make it a bit more explicit now. Phil did just share how the Dean of Students office is readily available to assist you with your students. What I'm about to share is just a little bit different. We are here to support your students, as I've suggested, but the advising relationship is ideally, and I believe it's most effective, when it's between the student and the advisor. For this relationship to grow, your student has to be confident in the knowledge that the things they share with their advisor are private. If your student invites you to attend a meeting with their advisor, you're more than welcome to do so, but this should be the exception, not the rule. You should also note that advisors will not meet with parents without the student present. If you have any concerns about your student, you're welcome to reach out to your student's advisor, but the advisor will always ask your student for their permission to respond to you and will loop you into that loop your student into that conversation. Advisors won't share specific information about your student's academics or other details. Rather, the advisor will encourage your student to have these conversations with you themselves. Now, I'll close with a few suggestions that you can pass on to your students, particularly when you sense they're worried or feeling the pressure of both increasing responsibility and increasing independence. First, please tell them to ask for help. You just heard Phil say the exact same thing. We're on their side. They don't have to go through this journey alone, and they should rely on their coaches, their resident heads, their instructors, and of course, their academic advisors. Their advisor will be their biggest advocate. It's extremely difficult to be successful academically if they're not socially, emotionally, and physically healthy. And it's a sign of maturity, not weakness, again, as Phil suggested, to reach out for help and support when needed. Second, please tell them that they belong here. They were admitted to the University of Chicago because we believe they can be successful. This doesn't mean everything will work out perfectly on the first try. Sometimes it takes multiple attempts to find the right extracurricular activity, the right major, and the right research position. Your student may struggle through general chemistry or calculus in a way that they've not struggled before. That's okay. Learning how to learn at this level can take time. Meeting new people and developing social connections with people that you haven't known your whole life can take some time. This is all part of the normal transition process, and students go through this process at varying speeds. Third, finally, please tell them it's okay to miss home, to miss their dog, their little brother or sister, their friends. It's even okay to miss their bed at home. It may take a while for UChicago to feel like home, but in the vast majority of cases, if they're patient and give it a chance, they'll feel very comfortable by the time spring quarter rolls around, and it will roll around quickly. I appreciate your time tonight and for allowing me and our advisors to work with your students. I'll now turn it over to Ravi from the Center for Identity and Inclusion.
Thanks, Chris. Good evening. On behalf of the Center for Identity and Inclusion team, I'd like to echo the warm welcome to the University of Chicago. Our center is home to 3 areas: multicultural student affairs, LGBTQ student life, and student support services. 3 areas that work together to support students at both the undergraduate and graduate professional levels, including students of color, LGBTQ students, and FLY students. Could you jump to the next slide, please? Thank you so much. FLY is the acronym that we tend to use on campus for first-generation, lower-income, and immigrant, including undocumented and documented students. And at the undergraduate level, the Center for College Student Success is your primary resource. So we work very closely together on a variety of university-wide initiatives. We have a beautiful building, which you just saw on the last slide, in the heart of campus with comfortable lounges and event spaces. And we also offer a wide variety of programs and resources and work with partners to advance or make tangible the university's commitments to building a more inclusive campus and a stronger sense of community. Jump to the next slide. Before we dive in, I'd like to take just a moment to recognize our dedicated team of full-time employees pictured here. We were particularly excited to welcome 2 Campus Inclusion Fellows who are both recent graduates of the college, so they're uniquely positioned to help build community and affinity among student and alumni. We also have more than 20 student employees across several different functional areas who make this work. Next slide, please. So how can you get engaged as a student, or how can your students get engaged with the center? In the interest of time, I will highlight just a few of these areas and encourage folks to reach out with additional questions. First and foremost, we are a student center, a cultural center, a space created for students by students. It's often described as a home away from home. We certainly hope that is true for your students. You'll see weekly programs on timely topics. We offer, again, programs and resources on a weekly, if not daily basis. There's something happening in the building pretty much every night of the academic year. I would say roughly 50% of those programs are organized by one or more of our offices, and 50% are student-led. We're putting the finishing touches on our fall quarter calendar as we speak, but I'd love to give you just a few examples, some of my favorite programs. We've hosted performances and conversations about music and dance as a means of cultural preservation. I'm thinking about bomba performances in particular. We've hosted queer proms in collaboration with student groups. We've hosted jam-packed Fly Celebration Weeks, again in collaboration with our partners at CCSS. We sent a fourth-year student a few years ago to participate in a conversation with Michelle Obama about her book Becoming, and hosted a watch party on campus. Here you'll see a student interviewing Tommy Orange, the author of They're There. We raffle off tickets to student-run cultural shows, all sorts of good stuff. I could go on for a long time about the programs and resources, so I'd encourage you to keep an eye out for that calendar. I'd like to touch just briefly on individualized support as the last bucket here. Our team members are always available to chat, celebrate accomplishments, troubleshoot concerns, or connect students with campus and community resources. Consider us part of that support network as students embark on this new adventure. I would be remiss to mention there's also a really strong network of culturally based and identity-based student groups on campus. We're happy to help identify groups that may be of interest to students and make personal introductions. I have had the pleasure of being on campus for about 14 years. I'm really pleased to share there's a palpable buzz on campus these days with a lot of folks who are deeply committed to this work. It's a really exciting place to be. We cannot wait to welcome you to campus and to the center during orientation. In the meantime, we encourage you and your students to sign up for our newsletter at inclusion.uchicago.edu to make sure you receive the most up-to-date information. And if we can be of assistance in the meantime, please don't hesitate to reach out. With that, I will turn things over to my wonderful colleague, Dr. Meeta Kumar, Assistant Vice President for Student Wellness.
Thank you, Ravi. And I would also like to extend a very warm welcome to all of you. Thank you so much for being with us this evening or afternoon or morning. And as Ravi said, my name is Meeta Kumar, and I'm the Assistant Vice President overseeing UChicago Student Wellness. And I'm delighted to be here with all of you to give you an overview of all that we offer through UChicago Student Wellness to your students. Before I do that, though, I want to emphasize that a core driver of all of our programs and services is the belief that health and wellness are fundamental to academic and life success. And we are constantly striving to support our diverse student community. So through UChicago Student Wellness, we provide comprehensive and multidisciplinary care to all eligible UChicago students. Our staff are highly trained and very diverse and bring lots of different identities and clinical specialties to the mix. Now, I'll tell you a little bit about each of the different areas highlighted on this slide. So through our medical services, we provide primary routine medical care, including physicals, screenings, immunizations. We also provide acute health care. For example, your student has a sprained ankle or ear infections. We also provide gynecological and sexual health services, eating concern support and assessment, routine lab testing, as well as we have nurse navigators who are here to just support students navigating healthcare and finding their way to the right people, either at UChicago Student Wellness or outside. Now, the mental health services is full range, again, comprehensive care that includes short-term individual couples counseling, psychoeducational workshops, academic skills assessment program to help students boost their academic performance through assessment, short-term coaching, and referrals. And we also provide long-term psychiatric treatment, which is for as long as a student wants or needs psychiatric care. All of those are free services and are provided through UChicago Student Wellness providers. Our health promotion support and programs is our public health arm through which students can have access to a range of well-being initiatives throughout the year. For example, things like mindfulness, meditation, restorative yoga programs, refresh sleep, alcohol, other drugs, recovery group, education, learning to recognize warning signs and symptoms of mental health crises and how to support their peers through Maroon Mental Health Matters training, etc. We also provide and offer student health insurance program called USHIP. The university requires all full-time registered students to carry adequate health insurance, and USHIP is one high-quality option, and that is selected by over half of our students on any given year. Can you move to the next slide, please? So all of our services and programs are co-located under one facility, a state-of-the-art student wellness center that's very conveniently located on 59th Street, adjacent to UChicago Medicine and the hospital. Our building hours are 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday to Friday, and 773-834-9355. Please make a note of these numbers and information on this slide. That's available 24 hours. Students can leave messages or access our front desk staff during business hours. And we are offering increasingly a lot of convenient options for students to book appointments. They can book most medical appointments, initial counseling appointments, health promotion appointments through a one-stop shop student portal. Again, the link is available here. Students can also call us during business hours to schedule appointments. And I will point you to our website, wellness.uchicago.edu, that has a plethora of information about each of the services and programs that I'm highlighting today. Next slide, please. And lastly, we want you to know that we are here for your students 24/7. So for urgent medical care, there is a medical advice line 24/7. Students can access someone who is available to respond to their inquiry and assist them day or night or weekend. For urgent mental health care, there are a range of options. We have a therapist on call available 24/7 by phone. Again, please note the number 773-702-3625. We also partner with a telehealth company to bring additional virtual resources to our students. And through that, students can access phone, video, mental health clinician on demand 24/7 through timelycare.com/uchicago. And then during business hours, students can walk in. They can drop in Monday through Friday, 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. And one of our clinicians is available to assist them. In addition to that, of course, know that University of Chicago Police Department is always easily available, and Dean on Call services are available through that number. We are also really lucky that we have world-class UChicago Medicine that has a 24/7 adult emergency department conveniently located in our backyard. So that is 5656 South Maryland Avenue, and students can obviously take advantage of that for any issue as they need. So again, I will point you to our website. And I would leave you with sort of, again, that please encourage your students to ask for help. And we really see students do well when they reach out before things become sort of big or crises. No questions are too big or small. We are here to respond to your students' questions as well as to you any time of the year and assist the students. And we really are invested, and we are here on a daily basis to serve our students. So please encourage your students to take advantage of us and our resources. And again, most of our services are available free of charge to all of our eligible students. With that, I will pass this on to Joan Fiesta from UCPD, Safety and Services.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Joan Fiesta, and I serve as the Director of Victim and Witness Services at the University of Chicago Police Department, which is part of the Department of Safety and Security. I've worked for the university for 5 years, and I'm starting my 31st year in campus public safety. I'm happy to be here with you this evening, or this afternoon, or morning, wherever you are, to share with you how our department serves our students and our greater community. Created in 2009, the Department of Safety and Security is a consolidated public safety agency whose main operational components include transportation and parking, campus security and security technology, emergency management and public health, environmental health and safety, and our most visible unit, the University of Chicago Police Department. When I think about the areas of our department that our students interact with most, it is the transportation network, our security officers who are stationed in various areas of our campus and patrol in our extended communities, and our police officers who respond to emergency situations. Each of these units has an integral role in making sure your student has a safe and secure environment in which to live and learn. Our department offers a robust transportation network that operates on both campuses and the surrounding communities. The detailed route maps and transportation options for your students can be found on our website, but is also on our mobile safety app called the UChicago Safe app. Our security officers, also known as our safety ambassadors, are carefully stationed throughout our campus in the evening and as a supplement to our police department. Safety ambassadors also patrol the surrounding communities of Hyde Park, Kenwood, and Woodlawn. Our safety ambassadors are the cornerstone of our safety escort program and, upon request, will walk with anyone who feels uncomfortable doing so in the evenings and late nights. Anyone can request a safety escort by contacting our department or through the UChicago Safe mobile safety app. In the rare instances that students need services from the University of Chicago Police Department, our nationally accredited law enforcement agency serves our campus 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. Our law enforcement team works in partnership with the various units within the campus and student life, including the Deans on Call, residential life and student counseling services to ensure your students get the appropriate amount of support should they need emergency assistance. UCPD can be reached by phone or through the UChicago Safe app. As you might have noticed, the recurring resource mentioned is the UChicago Safe mobile safety app, which is why it's the only slide we share it tonight. It's free to any community member and can be downloaded on any Android or Apple device. Not only will your student have access to a host of safety-related resources and emergency contacts, but they will have quick access to the Dean on Call program, student counseling services, as well as information regarding other local support services. Please ask your students to download the UChicago Safe app before they get to campus. Thank you, and we really look forward to working with you and your students over the next 4 years.
Thank you each so much for each of your portions covering your specific units. We do have some questions if we would like to go ahead and enter the Q&A section. I see that a few have already been answered through our Q&A section, but everyone wants to pop back on, we can go ahead and work through some of the questions that were submitted to us through the registration for tonight's program. Thanks, everyone. Awesome. So one of the things that was shared was the recording for this session, which you will see was answered in the answered Q&A portion. So just as a reminder, if you did have to miss any of tonight's program or want to see any of the webinars that we've had going throughout this summer, feel free to go through there. But we are just going to go ahead and get kicked off with a few of the questions that were submitted to us through the registration for tonight's program. So kind of to kick us off, I think this would probably be maybe more of a Phil or potentially Dr. Kumar question, but if a student needs to be checked on, who would a parent or family member call?
I'll go first, then Mita can she can follow up. That's a great question. Like I said, you can call me. You can email me at collegedos@uchicago.edu. You'll get me or Karina Buckles, like I said, we are happy to follow up. But there's a variety of other places depending on what the question or what we think the student is want to be checked up on. It could be something that would go to Chris at advising, so you might want to reach out to your student's advisor. Depending again on the situation, Dean on Call is always available 24/7. Mita in her office is available. Mita, maybe this is a good time to kick it over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Phil. Again, I think it depends on the nature of the inquiry. I think there's a lot of different options and resources available at the university. If you're really sort of worried about the health and well-being of your student and feels kind of really urgent, for example, you haven't heard from them, or you're really worried that they might be distressed, so the Dean on Call, I think, is a great option. You can access that through some of the information that Joan has shared, reaching out to the UCPD number and asking them to page the Dean on Call, and they are available 24/7. I would also say that you can reach out to a therapist on call number that I had shared in the previous slide. Maybe we can put that in the chat. Whitney, the 773-3625 number, and that is again a mental health clinician that's available 24/7, that's available to listen to you, to support you, and come up with options. During the daytime, weekday business hours, you can call us, and we are always again available to listen to you and figure out what the next steps there would be to look out for your students. So please know there's a range of different options.
Perfect. Thank you both. And you'll see that Whitney Hedge just shared our Therapy on Call resource in the chat there as well, if you would like to jot that down. On the academic advising side of things, will students have their summer advisor who was assigned with them throughout this academic year, and do they have them for all 4 academic years?
Yeah, it's a great question. It's our goal to pair a student with an advisor and keep them together as long as possible. We want there to be a relationship that's developed over time so that advisor knows the student knows the advisor. There's a comfort level there. There's a rapport that's built, and they can work with each other throughout the entire journey. That's not always the case. To be perfectly frank, it's what we strive for, but we do have advisors who move on to other positions within or outside of the university. And so there are times when we go through a bit of transition and students are moved from one advisor to another during those times. When there is a transition or somebody is leaving our office, we do assign temporary advisors so that your student won't ever not have an assigned advisor. So in those interim times, they will have an interim advisor who will be there available to help them. So sometimes it feels like there's maybe more advisors than there really is, because we do try to fill that transition time with one of our other advisors. So long answer to your question, but our goal is certainly to have that relationship developed as long as possible over their journey in the college.
Perfect. Thank you, Chris. Joan, more of a transportation question. What are the transportation options available to students? And could you touch a little bit on the university's rideshare program and how that works?
Sure. So transportation that is available includes public transportation with Metra, the CTA. We have UChicago Go shuttles that run at various throughout most of the day. Some that even go downtown to Glacier Center. And the new VIA option is a rideshare van that runs from certain hours in the evening within the campus area, and that includes the greater community that surrounds the campus itself. Instead of Lyft, which was our previous program, we've gone to this. It's completely free for the students. If a van is not immediately available, or available to them. We also do have a contract with Lyft to supplement that.
Perfect, thank you. And then if a family has insurance other than if they have their own insurance that they have their student on and their student is not on USHIP as a result of that, can they use the student wellness services on campus? And does USHIP cover their student during breaks like summer break, winter break?
Yeah, so the answer to the first part, I think, is sometimes a myth that we really are trying to correct, that your students do not need to be on USHIP to access UChicago Student Wellness Services. Half of the students are on USHIP and the other not. So most of our services are covered and paid for by the tuition and other charges that you are paying for. So that's not needed. And for USHIP, it is a 12-month coverage. So yes, break period and summer period is covered. That goes from September 1 to August 31st.
Perfect, thank you. Any specific support geared towards transfer students at the University of Chicago? I will probably toss that both to Phil and Chris, but first I will shamelessly plug that during orientation week, we not only have a welcome party for our transfer students, but we also have a reception for them and some different opportunities for them to get involved with their transfer peer mentor several times. So as soon as they get to campus, that will be happening. And then from there on, I will pass it to Phil and Chris.
Who wants to go first? We do, and there are things and there are opportunities that that I think have already been shared, right? As Samuel pointed to, there's things that have already been shared with transfer students, and it's something that we're working on and building out, and we're looking forward to finding new ways to support our transfer students in a moment of transition, right? And thinking about resources and ways to connect them to the library, the Center for Teaching and Learning, and other sorts of academic support and ways to foster student success. Chris, do you want to jump in a bit too?
Yeah, I will say transfer students also received information on several sessions being run by our summer session office. I believe one of those actually happened yesterday, but there are two more that are upcoming that are specific to transfer students and being successful during that transition as a college student at the University of Chicago. So they should have some of that information. The one thing I neglected to mention during my few minutes of talking is part of our office's acronym CATO is transfer. And as Phil suggested, this is something that we are working on building out more as our population of transfer students continues to grow. So that is something that our office has been tasked with and will be working on as we move throughout this year to provide some additional support and programming for our transfer students.
Awesome, thank you both. For Ravi, as we look towards the beginning of the year, for students who are looking really from just right off the bat to find community with potentially other students of color or other students who just share the same affinity spaces as them, what are some of those earliest opportunities and how do they learn about them, since there are quite a few? I don't think I can hear you, Ravi, sorry. It doesn't say that. There we go, perfect.
Awesome. I was excited to see that someone asked in the Q&A about activities post move-in day, and Whitney added that there are a ton. Totally worth perusing that schedule. College Programming Orientation puts in a ton of work in collaboration with campus partners. Specifically for our offices, we are hosting a reception for new college students and families on the 24th from 12 to 3 at the center, a chance to learn more about our programs and resources, meet our full-time staff and student staff, and connect with student leaders. And then the following week, Welcome Week, on Monday, we're hosting a multicultural festival through the Office of Multicultural Student Affairs. And the next day on Tuesday, a resource fair hosted by LGBTQ Student Life with a number of campus partners as well. So I would say those are three fantastic places to start. But again, sign up for the newsletter on our website. And two, we also encourage folks to stop by, and we love to have more individualized conversations about interests. All of our programs, I should note, are open to all students on campus.
Awesome, thank you. For Joan, for parents and family members who are looking to stay up to date about what's going on around campus, particularly in terms of safety resources, maybe the family members don't live in Chicago, how can they stay up to date on that? Can they download the same apps, get the same alerts?
So yes, the UChicago Safe app will provide information such as push notifications on trends that may be happening within the community area, or our immediate notices that are put out. There's also a way to sign up for opt-in. So the same notices that are put out to students or any faculty or staff that have a UChicago email address, people can opt into those, and they can also opt in for our C alerts. And I'll go ahead and I can send the page from our website that they can use as an opt-in.
Perfect, thank you. And then while Joan is sending that over to Dr. Kumar, number one, is there a pharmacy on campus? And if so, what do students need to do to transfer prescriptions? And when should they do that?
Yeah, so there are actually several local pharmacies, on campus and close to campus. There's actually a list on our website. So please go to the Get Help Now section, and there's an updated list of local pharmacies. So, students can take advantage of that. Now, if student is looking to transition or transfer their care from kind of a home provider to on campus, I would recommend just setting up an appointment either for the medical part with one of our providers, or on the mental health side, set up an initial counseling appointment and start that process as soon as possible. For students who are looking to transition care, again, make sure that you're bringing in 2-3 months of like refills and supplies, so you can get set up with your new provider who's going to do an evaluation and help coordinate that transition to happen, which may end up taking a little bit of time. So autumn quarter clearly tends to be busy, and I would advise for anyone who's thinking about that, reach out now, schedule those appointments, and get that process set up and happening as smoothly as possible.
Perfect. Sounds simple enough. I appreciate that. And then a couple questions that we have received through the registration that we've also received a couple times over the summer in our orientation side of things. So in terms of commuting or just transportation to and from the airport, Chicago is home to 2 international airports. So while the shuttle services specific to campus do not go to either of those airports, we do see a lot of students opt into carpooling together with ride shares like Uber or Lyft, but we also have an extensive public transportation network in Chicago. So we do have train lines that go to both. And then there are also other bus options. We try to do our best to go ahead and educate all of our students as they're coming in through our online orientation about all the different public transportation options. So those are both good options for students looking for transportation there. And then does UChicago help to set up local bank accounts for students who might be coming internationally or just need to set up locally? Your student does have an online orientation module. I believe it's the 5th online orientation module that talks a lot about our banking resources and actually has an entire banking guide to the local Hyde Park community around campus. So I would encourage you all to check that out. You can do that as soon as you get to campus. You can go ahead and start working on that right now just so you have peace of mind about it. But those are just a couple questions that we get pretty often through orientation that I saw pop up again. And then on the topic of public transportation, Joan, would you mind speaking a little bit to students who have not necessarily had experience with public transportation, worried about the safety of it in and around campus? Just sort of your own perspective on that, and what advice do you have for students to manage their safety in regards to public transportation?
Our big thing is always remain aware. And we encourage people to move in groups, but if they need to take public transportation, it is a safe method to use. But we don't want people having their cell phones out, having earbuds in, remaining aware of their surroundings. If they encounter something, please tell somebody. They can get off at the next station that's safe. If it's well lit, somebody's there and notify us. Or they can use notify somebody on the CTA that somebody's bothering them. And people are very responsive on those pieces. Our buses are safe. Our trains, there's a question about the train to O'Hare. That is generally safe. And we also, if people want to use the rideshare programs and feel more comfortable with that, there's a plethora of ways to use the city and use its extensive transportation system safely.
Perfect. Thank you. I will be taking that to O'Hare tomorrow. So good to hear. And then Chris, in terms of students who are worried about, we do provide pretty rigorous academic opportunity here at UChicago. What advice do you have for first years in terms of their approach to the classroom and their academics?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I think I can speak for myself as I advise students, and I think I can probably safely speak for all of our advisors, that we do tell students to be patient and to be easy on themselves, maybe easier than they have been in the past. It is a significant transition. We ask students to complete a questionnaire before they meet with their advisor during the summer. And I would say probably on 75% of the questionnaires that I read, one of the concerns student has was the level of academic rigor. Did my high school prepare me for this? Am I personally prepared for this? Am I going to be the only one who is not prepared for this? And the answer to those questions is they are prepared. They're not the only ones. Everybody's going to be feeling a little bit of that, whether they're willing to admit it or not. And so we advise them to keep in touch with us. If they find that they are facing some challenges in the classroom, they can reach out to their advisor. They don't have to wait for the required appointments. They can reach out to the advisor. Advisors can offer suggestions for interacting with faculty through office hours or other ways where they can gain some assistance. There are some tutoring programs on campus where you can get real live help with actual problems. There's just a lot of ways. So I would say, as was echoed multiple times, have them ask for help. That's what we're here for. That's what we enjoy doing. Their advisor is a great first point of contact. The advisor may not be able to help them with their exact problem, but typically they're going to know where to send them. And so when in doubt, have them contact their academic advisor and we can send them in the right direction.
Perfect. Thanks, Chris. And Whitney has been sending quite a few of the resources that we've been touching on today in the chat. If you want to open that up and, screenshot or just jot down any that are relevant to any of the questions that you may have had. Perfect. And I see that we have one more about supermarkets nearby. I can personally attest that there are several supermarkets nearby, many stores that students can frequent. And I guess if anyone wanted to touch on students who could potentially be experiencing food insecurity, what options there are on campus or around campus, any of those resources.
I can speak to what's available from the Center for Student Success in our Dean of Students office. The students should feel free to reach out to Leanne Omandra, who are the Center for Student Success, or reach out to Karina and myself. As I said before, there are some resources available, and that's a good place to start.
Perfect. A couple more coming in. Housing assignments. Great question. So first of all, I would like to plug that we have a webinar tomorrow regarding move-in as well as orientation with a representative from housing. And so that would be a great thing to attend if you have any questions regarding that. But in terms of the actual housing assignments themselves, they should be live. So if your student could log into their housing portal, that should be available for them already. So you can go ahead and start planning and, picturing everything, all that good stuff. And as we start wrapping up, I just have sort of a closing question for everyone. We've had a couple hundred family members on this call throughout the evening, and many more will watch the recording. So what is a piece of advice that you have for our parents and family members as they prepare to send their student off and, potentially support from afar for the first time? Anyone can take it. Pop.
I'm going to keep plugging the Ask for Help. I know it's a repeat. I know we've talked about it already, but I think that's because it's so important. And we don't want our students, your students, suffering in silence or facing challenges, that there are resources to fix those challenges or to assist in those challenges. There are tons of resources around campus, and sometimes the most challenging thing is just navigating where to go to find those. And that can be overwhelming for students, or they could find themselves in a situation itself that's overwhelming and they're just not sure what to do. So I think all of my colleagues on the call would be happy to take, to receive requests for help from students for whatever would be appropriate for our offices. Again, I will offer our academic advisors as a first point of contact for students. They should know their advisor, and their advisor can get them to where they need to go.
I will add to that and say, of course, that. And I would say make a plan to communicate. Your student is likely going to be super busy, and communication can feel disjointed, rushed. It's a texting environment, so there may be sort of like really quick, short answers to things. Make a plan where you can actually have a depth of a conversation, where you can ask questions and really listen deeply to things that are going positively in their life, and ask about things that perhaps are not. So your relationship is going to be transitioning as well. And so I would say that talk to them about how often you want to hear from them, you want to reach out to them, make a plan when they are available, when you are available, and yeah, ask good questions and listen really deeply. I'll stop there.
Any other nuggets of knowledge before we wrap up?
I'll just reiterate what we've already said before, the imperative to not just asking for help, but be open to receiving it. I think that's something we all I'm a product of this place. As I said, I've been here, and it's something that is not necessarily always in our nature, as we struggle and strive to be precise and to be exact. It's the flip side of the intellectual curiosity that fuels this place, and that we hope to encourage in our students from the very get-go when they show up to their first humanities class and start reading the Iliad or Plato, or I default to the classics just as a reflex. But in the middle of all that, while you're cultivating that, encourage them to be open to receiving the help, not just asking for it, but be open to receiving it, and encourage them to get involved. Ask your students not about just what's going on in class. There are 20 other hours of the day. There's students, as Mita said, are going to be very busy. And as I mentioned, they're going to be involved in a lot of different activities, which is going to give them an opportunity to try out the things that they're learning in class, to learn how to persuade and engage in discourse and be a part of the discursive communities that make this place great, and that they are about to be a part of a long tradition of it, stretching back a long time, and remind them to have some fun. This place really is where fun comes to thrive, or at least I'm going to keep saying that as long as I can keep saying that and get people to laugh like Mita did. And stop by and say hello. This door is always open. I know it's closed right now, but it really is always open. You know, I never want a student to say that they didn't take advantage of anything that we had here to offer during their time. That's what I would say.
Fantastic. Well, thank you everyone for attending tonight. Thank you to our panelists. You will see that Whitney just sent, for reference, copies of all communications that have been sent to our students and family members are on the orientation website. She sent tomorrow's webinar focusing on move-in, so for those housing questions. And then I will go ahead and throw in our summer webinar series link as well, which is where you will be able to find a recording of tonight's program, but also all of our webinars that college programming and orientation is hosted throughout the summer here at the college. So if there's anything that you would like to reference or just check out for yourself, please feel free. But again, we would love to see you tomorrow at 6 p.m. Central to talk all things college orientation and housing and residence life move-in. And until then, thank you all for attending and have a great rest of your day. Thanks, everyone.